All right, in this video, I want to talk about water rates. Right? So on your water bill, charges are typically broken into those two broad categories. The first being your service charges. These are your fixed fees. These are to pay for things like the infrastructure replacement, the upgrades, the staff that runs the system, the chemicals used to treat the water, maintaining the reservoir on top of the hill, the actual treatment process. These fixed charges are the same for everyone, and they typically vary based on your customer class and more specifically your meter size. So someone with a 3/4 inch meter may have a service charge of $25 a month, where someone with a 2-inch meter, it may be $150 a month. So those charges are based mostly on that meter size, along with the other services. And you can find on your water agency's website the breakdown of where all those different fees come from and what they all pay for. $1.25 to this, $2 to that, $3 to this. So service fees, service charges make up part of that, the fixed amount. The variable amount that changes month to month is known as the commodity charge, and that's based on the actual amount of the commodity you use, which in this case is water. Now, the way we charge or the way we bill for that commodity charge, we typically charge in terms of BUs. You'll sometimes see them as BUs, which stands for billing unit. You'll also see them sometimes written out as CCF. Well, what do all those mean? They mean the same thing as 100 cubic feet, right? A billing unit, one CCF, which is 100 cubic feet, is 100 cubic feet. So if you used 1 unit of water, right, on your water bill, you're charged based on those units, you're actually using 748 gallons. So if your usage went from one unit to 2 units, you're actually adding a pretty significant amount of water when you think of it in terms of being 748 gallons per billing unit, right? Or per CCF, or per 100 cubic feet. Those terms all mean the same thing. So this is how most water agencies bill customers. Now, the way that they bill on commodity charges, though, is typically either at a flat rate or a tiered rate. Now, flat rate is very uncommon now. Flat rate is literally you pay $50 a month no matter how much water you use. Now, obviously, California, it's very uncommon because there's no incentive to save water, right? Which is part of what rates do. They act as a way to encourage folks to conserve water, to be more water efficient. So flat rates, that's what they are. We don't really see them much here in California at all. Now, the other way we bill water is in terms of tiers. Now, tiers, you think of like you have Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3. Now, these tiers, though, the way that we determine how much water goes in these tiers, they can be more generic or they can be budget-based. So in your simplest form, which is going to be your generic, we just say Tier 1 is the first 10 100 cubic feet you use. Tier 2 is the next 10 100 cubic feet. Tier 3 is the next 10 100 cubic feet that you use. And then, of course, there's a cost per unit of water. So maybe Tier 1 is $1. Maybe Tier 2 is $2. Maybe Tier 3 is $3. So there's your incentive to conserve water, because once you use up your first 10 units of water, now every unit you use, you're paying more, right? You fill up your Tier 2, now every unit you use, you're paying even more. So there's kind of just the generic flat tiered rate structure that some water agencies still use. Most water agencies have gone and are going to a budget-based rate structure. And so with the budget-based rate structure, you typically are set up such that Tier 1 is your indoor use. Tier 2 is your outdoor use. And Tier 3 is basically water wasted. Some agencies will have Tier 4, 5, so on and so forth, where water becomes increasingly more expensive as you move down your tiers. Now, most agencies for their indoor water use the formula, and this is coming down from the state as a requirement, is 55 gallons of water per person per day. So what does that mean? That means if I have a family of 4, it means that each family member is allocated 55 gallons of water for indoor use per person per day. So if I am trying to figure out, what is my water budget, for example, I would just need to look at my family of four and go, okay, so I have four family members. I am going to type it on my calculator on my computer, multiply that by 55 gallons of water per person times however many days in the month. March, 30 days, half September, June, November, so 31 days in March. My indoor budget for tier 1 for a family of four is going to be 6,820 gallons. Right? That's my indoor budget. So when you think of it like that, that's quite a bit of water, right? Almost 7,000 gallons for a month. Now, if we take that and divide that out by the fact that there are 748 gallons per billing unit or per 100 cubic feet, we figure out that that is just over 9, we'll say 9.1 CCF or 100 cubic feet or billing units. Right? So that would be your indoor water budget. So this tier 1 here in this situation is based on the number of people living in my home. So in this case, my indoor water use in my tier 1, that's going to be 9.1 cubic feet. And let's say this water here is $1.25 per billion unit. It's pretty cheap. Now your outdoor budget, this varies, depending on water agency to water agency. But really the most innovative and most specific, most accurate, they actually look at the parcel size of the property. So they'll look at the parcel size and go, okay, this is an 8,000 square foot property minus the square footage. Let's write this down. The property size, let's say, is 8,000 square feet. That's the total property size, my total footprint. I know the house is, let's say the house is 2,000 square feet. So I know that, 2,000 of that is going to be roof area. That doesn't need to be watered. I know that some of it's going to be sidewalk, some of it's going to be driveway. Let's say that's another 1,000 square feet of concrete hard surfaces. This tells me when I take the 8,000 minus 2 and minus 1, this tells me that I have 5,000 square feet potentially of area that needs to be irrigated. So then this number can be used to calculate how much approximate water needs to be used outdoors, which is then going to create that tier 2 budget. Right? Now, tier 2 outdoor use, let's just say we do run this calculation, and you'll see how some water agencies do this calculation. It's a little more complicated than the indoor water use, but it's not that much. It just accounts for a plant factor. There's a conversion factor. We'll just say we're using 0.7 here, and we end up with, say, 16 CCF of water in our tier 2 budget. Maybe this water now is 250 per billion unit. Then my tier 3, right? That's essentially what we consider water as being wasted. That's above and beyond my allocated budget. Now the cost of that water is going to increase substantially. So maybe tier 2 is 20% of your total budget. Okay. And the cost of that water is now $375. Then maybe tier 4 is an additional 20% of that original budget. Now the cost is going to be $550. Some agencies have a tier 5. That is basically 20%. Anything more than that, the cost of this can increase substantially. Maybe now it's $8 per billion unit. So a budget-based rate structure like this is very specific to create your indoor and outdoor budget. Then your tiers get significantly more expensive as you continue to use water. Now, some agencies, kind of have more leniency in what these tiers are and when these tiers get used. Sometimes a customer will have a leak. So, for example, some agencies will offer what we call a variance. This allows them to basically, if they had a bill that was, say, $1,000 because I had a huge leak, it allows the agency to say, okay, we're not going to charge you tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 prices. We're going to charge all your water at the tier 2 price, for example. And they'll give you a break, they'll give you a variance, give you some money back, or credit your bill. So this is kind of the basic structure, and you can imagine now how this structure encourages conservation, encourage you to save water. Some of us want to save water just to save water because we know that it's better for the planet, but the almighty dollar speaks powerfully.